You stand before the grand gilded halls of Olympus, the towering peaks of the mountain scraping the very heavens. The air is thick with the weight of centuries of divine power, echoing whispers of gods and myths long past. The mountain stands as a fortress unyielding, proud, and, at its heart, seated upon a throne carved from clouds and stone, is Hera, the queen, not merely by birthright, but by ruthless determination and sharp intellect. The weight of her gaze, icy and unrelenting, strikes you. Her dark eyes glitter like polished onyx, colder than the winds of the north, and just as sharp. You stand before her as an audience, a mere mortal in the presence of a goddess, her power palpable, like an invisible current running through the very ground you stand on. But you know that beneath the surface of this regal image lies something far more dangerous. Hera isn't just a goddess of marriage and fertility. No, she is much more than that. Once she was a young goddess, innocent, perhaps in the eyes of the gods, but not for long. She was born into a family of titans, powerful, yet cursed with their own monstrous flaws. Her mother, Rhea, gave birth to the mighty Hera, and though her birth was celebrated among the divine, it was the harsh lessons of survival that would shape her into the queen she would become. As a daughter of titans, Hera grew up amidst turmoil, amidst betrayal. She learned quickly that those who held power held the right to shape the future, and those who failed to seize it would be left in the dust, forgotten. Her marriage to Zeus, god of thunder, the ruler of Olympus, wasn't a romantic union. It was a strategic move. When Zeus, in his insatiable hunger for power, sought Hera's hand, he saw an alliance, a pairing that could shake the very heavens. Hera, however, had a different vision in mind. To her, Zeus wasn't just a husband. He was a means to an end, a means to not only rise to power, but to control it, to manipulate the gods from behind the scenes. You can feel her cold, calculating gaze sweeping over the gods and goddesses who dare to challenge her. They think of her as a loyal wife, a partner to Zeus, but in truth, her marriage is far from that. It is a battleground, a place where power is always in flux, where control can shift with a single whisper in the right ear. Hera does not simply play the role of queen. She has learned how to be a puppet master, pulling the strings from behind closed doors. As queen, Hera has learned to thrive within the confines of a marriage that was never her choice. Zeus, for all his thunderous might, is a fool when it comes to her. He believes that his dominance over the gods guarantees his hold over Olympus, but Hera knows better. She understands that true power comes from beneath the surface, where no one sees the webs you weave. While Zeus reigns with brute force and boisterous commands, Hera's power lies in subtlety, in silence. In the manipulation of others, Zeus's infidelities only make her stronger. He sees them as mere flings, affairs born of his uncontrollable desires, but Hera's patience is growing thin. Each betrayal sharpens the edge of her heart, transforming the raw pain of betrayal into a quiet, seething fury. Every woman he takes to his bed, every child he fathers outside of their union, is not just a betrayal of their marriage, is a betrayal of her very essence. She is no longer just the goddess of marriage. She is the goddess of vengeance, the goddess who will stop at nothing to see her enemies fall. You can almost hear her thoughts, calculated and precise. With each infidelity, Hera's resolve hardens. She bides her time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Zeus might be the king of the gods, but Hera is the true ruler of Olympus. It is not enough for her to simply sit beside him, to be the queen. No, she intends to own Olympus, to control it, to make every god and goddess bow to her will. Her path to power, however, is not without its obstacles. Zeus is not a fool, though he often acts like one. He knows Hera's ambitions and has learned, over the centuries, to tread carefully around her. But even Zeus's careful steps are no match for Hera's patience. She is biding her time, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal just how powerful she truly is. Hera's marriage to Zeus becomes more of a political battlefield than a romantic one. You can see it in her eyes, the way she watches him with an unreadable expression. There is a glimmer of love there, yes, but it is tempered by a deeper hunger for more. She watches Zeus with the eyes of a strategist, not a lover. Every glance, every word, every move he makes is a chess piece in her grand design. The gods may bow to Zeus's thunder, but Hera's power will come from their minds, their hearts, and their fears. It's not enough to simply sit by his side. Hera's ambitions reach far beyond the bounds of their marriage. You begin to understand the depth of her plans. She wants to be the one who holds Olympus in her grasp, to twist the fates of gods and mortals alike to her whims. Zeus may be the figurehead of Olympus, but Hera will be the one pulling the strings behind the scenes as she sits on her throne. Watching over the gods, you realize that Hera is not just a goddess of vengeance. She is the embodiment of quiet power. The power that comes from knowing your enemies inside and out, from understanding their desires and weaknesses, and from using that knowledge to your advantage. Hera is not just a queen. She is a ruler in the truest sense of the word. And as you watch her, you can't help but feel a creeping sense of awe and fear. Hera's power is not the kind you can see, not the kind that crackles in the air like Zeus's lightning. No, Hera's power is the kind that quietly seeps into your bones, the kind that makes you question every move you make, every word you speak. Hera is the ruler of Olympus, and you are just another pawn in her game. The throne of Olympus feels colder now, doesn't it? You can almost taste the bitterness in the air, thick with a sense of betrayal and the quiet tension that stretches between the gods. Hera, seated high and poised on her divine seat, looks nothing like a mere wife. She is a force unto herself, calculating, vengeful, and far more dangerous than any god who rules by brute force. The marriage to Zeus, you see, was never about love for Hera. It was about strategy. Sure, she may have once harbored some affection for him after all. Who wouldn't? But as she watches him now, in the aftermath of countless infidelities, that love is replaced with something far darker. The hunger for dominance, and it's not just about ruling Olympus. Hera wants to control the narrative, to reshape the gods' very understanding of power. You notice the shift in the air as she sits still, watching her husband with a mixture of affection and disdain. For all his power, for all his thunder and glory, Zeus is nothing but a puppet in Hera's hands. He may be the king, but she is the true master of Olympus. She has learned over centuries that power doesn't need to come in the form of a loud, clattering force. No, Hera's power comes in silence, in the way she uses Zeus's very weaknesses against him. Each of Zeus's dalliances stings, not just as personal betrayal, but as a slap to her authority. To him, these affairs are inconsequential, small indulgences that don't threaten his rule. To Hera, however, every affair chips away at her control, her sovereignty. She can feel it, the slow erosion of her influence, piece by piece, as he sleeps with nymphs, mortals, and even goddesses. And yet, each affair only fans the flame of her resentment, driving her to take action in ways that only she could. You feel her thoughts sharpen, a plan unfolding behind her regal expression. With each betrayal, with each lover Zeus takes, Hera's resolve hardens. She is no longer a passive wife. She is a woman scorned, and she will not let this pass. You can almost hear the gears turning inside her mind. Hera's vengeance is not about swift retaliation, it is a slow burn. A calculated move that strikes at the heart of Zeus's empire. It begins subtly at first. A curse here, a whispered word there. You can sense her manipulation of the gods' perceptions, carefully setting the stage for the punishments that are sure to come. She weaves a web of retribution that ensnares Zeus's lovers and their offspring. But her true vengeance is far more intricate than a mere curse. Hera is not interested in petty revenge. She wants to make an example of the women who have crossed her, and she will do so in a way that even Zeus cannot ignore. You watch as Hera's first major target is set: a mortal woman named Semele, the object of Zeus's most recent affair. To the mortal realm, Semele is just another innocent, a woman swept away by the charm of the king of gods. But to Hera, Semele is nothing more than an opportunity to strike at Zeus in a way that will leave an indelible mark on his reputation. Hera's plan to destroy Semele begins with the simplest of tricks. She appears before the mortal woman, disguised as her nurse. With a sweet maternal tone, she encourages Semele to ask Zeus to show her his divine form, something no mortal could withstand without dying. Hera knows this, of course. She knows that the king of gods, in his arrogance, will not back down from such a request. It is his pride, his need to prove himself superior, that will ultimately be his undoing. When Semele asks Zeus to reveal himself in all his divine glory, you can almost hear Hera's quiet satisfaction. She has already won. His pride will be his downfall. You can't help but feel a shiver of anticipation as Hera's scheme begins to unfold, like the opening of a tightly wound trap. And as expected, Semele perishes in an instant when Zeus reveals himself in his full blinding majesty, the mortal woman consumed by his divine fire. But Hera's victory is far from complete. You see, Hera's vengeance does not stop with a single woman. No, she has set her sights higher. The way she sees it, Zeus's affairs are not just about passion, they are about power, about his constant need to assert his dominance over the gods. Hera knows that as long as Zeus continues his reckless behavior, he will continue to undermine her authority. And so, she begins to weave a far-reaching plan, one that will shake the very foundation of Olympus. You can feel the weight of Hera's quiet fury building. The gods have no idea what they are about to face. They believe her to be a loyal wife, a constant companion to Zeus. But Hera is far from loyal. She is playing a game of her own, a game in which Zeus's infidelities are merely pawns in her quest for dominance. As you move deeper into Hera's world, you begin to realize just how intricate her plans are. Each moment is carefully timed, each betrayal met with a calculated response. There is no such thing as chance in Hera's world. Every move is deliberate, and every action is designed to further her reach. She is not just fighting for control of Olympus, she is fighting for control of the narrative itself, for the right to be remembered as more than Zeus's wife. And you know deep down that Hera's quest for power is far from over. With every betrayal Zeus commits, with every lover he takes, Hera's resolve grows stronger. She is not just a woman scorned, she is a queen, a ruler in her own right, and she will stop at nothing to see her vision for Olympus fulfilled. Hera's empire of vengeance is not built on open confrontation. It is forged in secrecy, in shadows, and in quiet whispers. The gods may look upon her as a queen, but they do not see the web of spies she has woven across Olympus. These are not just any agents of hers, they are the eyes and ears that move through the mortal world, the gods' own realm, and even the hidden corners of their sacred domains. They are the creatures who see, hear, and report back to Hera, telling her everything from trivial gossip to the most intimate secrets. No one, not even Zeus, can escape her reach. You begin to understand the depths of Hera's strategy. She doesn't just control Olympus through force or through her marriage to Zeus, controls it through knowledge, through the quiet flow of information that only she possesses. This knowledge is power, and Hera wields it like a blade, sharp and precise. In the labyrinth of divine politics, she is the master navigator, threading her way through allies and enemies alike, with a deftness that even Zeus cannot comprehend. You sense the undercurrent of tension in the air as you watch the gods, all oblivious to the subtle eyes watching them. Hera's spies come in many forms. Some are gods and goddesses themselves, creatures who owe their allegiance to her, or who simply fear her retribution. But others are more unexpected: mortals, nymphs, satyrs, and even animals. The birds, the bees, the very winds that sweep across the earth, they all carry her secrets. Every whisper in the wind is a report to Hera. Every rustle in the trees, a message meant for her ears alone. You observe one such spy now, a humble nymph, once bound to a life of innocence and silence. Hera's influence has twisted her, turning her into a silent observer. The nymph moves through the forests, her eyes sharp and alert, taking note of every passing mortal and god alike. Every conversation she overhears, every glance she catches, is carefully reported back to Hera. The nymph may seem like nothing more than a wandering spirit, but she is a thread in Hera's vast web, and she knows it. The information flows in, a steady stream, sometimes subtle, sometimes shocking. A quiet word exchanged between lovers, a whispered promise made in the dark. Every secret, every bit of knowledge, is passed to Hera's network of spies, who relay it to her in turn. The more Hera knows, the more power she has, and the more she can manipulate the events of Olympus to her advantage. Hera's spies are not only watchful, they are also manipulators. She sends them to plant seeds of doubt and distrust among the gods, to provoke arguments, to fan the flames of jealousy. And as they do so, the gods begin to unravel from within. Where there once was unity, there is now discord. Where there once was loyalty, there is now betrayal. Hera's plan is not just to punish those who have wronged her. She intends to destabilize the entire system of Olympus, to turn the gods against each other, and to make them question the very foundations of their rule. The impact of this strategy is subtle at first. You see gods whispering in dark corners, their alliances shifting as their trust in one another falters. Even Zeus, the great and mighty king of Olympus, begins to feel the strain of these whispered doubts. He too becomes suspicious of those around him. His power, once unchallenged, begins to feel fragile. And yet, he remains unaware of the source of his growing paranoia. Hera, behind the scenes, continues to pull the strings, her presence felt in every passing glance, every whispered word. You begin to understand that Hera is not a queen who seeks only to destroy her enemies outright. No, her power lies in her ability to manipulate, to slowly erode the trust and unity that the gods have built over centuries. She is a master of psychological warfare, and her battlefield is not the physical realm, it is the minds and hearts of those who call Olympus home. But Hera is not content to stop there. Her ultimate goal is not merely to sow discord among the gods. No, she wants something far greater. You feel the pull of her ambition, a deep, insatiable hunger to reclaim Olympus itself. As long as Zeus remains on the throne, Hera knows that she will never truly rule. She must dethrone him not with brute force, but with subtlety, with manipulation. With the quiet power that she alone commands, you can almost hear her thoughts as she plots her next move. Her spies will soon bring her the information she needs, the weaknesses, the fears, the desires of the gods, and once she has this knowledge, she will strike. Not directly, but with an intelligence so refined that even Zeus will never see it coming. The gods have no idea what they are facing. They think of Hera as a loyal wife, a dutiful queen, but in truth, she is something far more dangerous. She is a queen of shadows, a master of whispers, and her spies are the instruments of her will. With each secret they gather, with each piece of information they provide, she grows closer to her goal. And that goal is not just to punish Zeus or to reclaim her dignity, is to take control of Olympus itself, to seize the very heart of the gods' empire. As you stand in the shadows, watching Hera weave her intricate web, you can't help but feel the creeping sense of dread. Olympus is not a place of stability, not anymore. It is a realm in flux, a kingdom on the verge of collapse. And at the center of it all is Hera, the queen who will stop at nothing to reshape the gods' world, in her own image. Hera's vengeance, though subtle in its beginnings, becomes a force so precise that it soon commands the attention of every god on Olympus. With every whispered secret, every flicker of doubt planted in the hearts of the gods, the one's unity of Olympus begins to fray. But Hera's schemes don't merely stop at whispers and rumors. No, she has much grander plans for those who have crossed her. The first to feel her wrath is a woman named mortal, yet one of Zeus's many lovers. Theirs was a relationship born out of Zeus's insatiable desire, a fling that, like so many others, seemed harmless to him. Yet Hera, with her sharp eyes and vengeful heart, does not take such slights lightly. Zeus's indiscretions are not simple affairs to her. Each one is a declaration of war, and she intends to make sure that Zeus's mistakes leave lasting scars on the world. You can almost feel the tension as Hera plots the downfall of Io, the innocent mortal who has been ensnared by Zeus's charms. She knows the pain of betrayal intimately, and Io's purity only serves to fuel her anger. But Hera's vengeance is not rash. She doesn't act impulsively. She waits for the right moment, knowing that Zeus's actions will come back to haunt him in ways he cannot predict. With a flash of divine power, Hera curses Io, transforming her into a cow. The tragedy of Io's transformation is not just in her loss of form, but in her eternal wandering. Hera's punishment is not simply physical, it is psychological, a slow torment that will stretch on for eternity. Io, once a beautiful mortal, is now forced to roam the earth, cursed and isolated from all she once knew. She is hunted, chased by a relentless gadfly sent by Hera herself. The sting of this divine torment is constant, a reminder of Hera's unyielding wrath. You watch as Io's once bright and hopeful spirit is crushed under the weight of her curse. The gods may look upon her with pity, but Hera's satisfaction is evident in her every action. Io is not just punished for her affair with Zeus. She is made an example of a warning to anyone who dares to challenge Hera's power. But Hera's vengeance doesn't stop there. No, she is only warming up. You feel the cold, calculating nature of her plots as they unfold, layer by layer. Hera is not content with merely punishing the women who Zeus loves. She wants to make sure that every lover of Zeus, every mortal and divine consort, suffers in ways that will echo through time. The gods will know her power, and they will know the cost of defying her. The next in line is Semele, a mortal woman who captures Zeus's heart with the same irresistible allure that so many others have. Hera watches from the shadows, her eyes gleaming with anticipation as she plans Semele's tragic fate. With a deceptively sweet smile, Hera appears before Semele, disguising herself as a trusted confidant. She plants the seed of doubt in Semele's heart, whispering that if she truly loves Zeus, she must ask him to reveal himself in his divine form, something no mortal could survive. Zeus, blinded by love for Semele, agrees to her request, and the result is nothing short of catastrophic. As Zeus unveils his true, divine form, a blinding light of pure power, Semele is consumed by his might. She is reduced to ashes in an instant, her mortal body unable to withstand the brilliance of Zeus's presence. And yet, Hera watches with a cold satisfaction, knowing that Semele's death is yet another testament to her power to Hera. These women are mere pawns, tools to be used in a larger game. She doesn't just seek retribution, she seeks to assert her authority over Zeus, to prove that he is not the untouchable god he believes himself to be. Every lover, every affair, becomes an opportunity for Hera to strike. Her vengeance is not just personal, it is political. She wants Zeus to feel the weight of his actions, to experience the full extent of the consequences of his betrayals. You sense that Hera's next move is even more calculated than the last. She has already shown the gods that she can punish them with cruelty and precision. But her ultimate goal is not just to punish. No, Hera wants to reshape Olympus, to strip Zeus of his control, and to place herself at the center of divine power. She will stop at nothing to achieve this, and her wrath will be felt by every god and mortal who dares to defy her. As you watch Hera move through her plan, you realize the true extent of her manipulation. She is not a goddess who acts on impulse. No, she is a strategist, a master of psychological warfare. Her vengeance is not about the immediate destruction of her enemies. It is about creating a slow, simmering tension that will boil over when the time is right. Hera knows that the gods will eventually turn on each other. She is simply ensuring that she is the one who will come out on top. Each time Hera strikes, Zeus feels the sting, but he does not yet understand the full scope of her power. He believes that his affairs are just minor indiscretions, things that can be ignored or dismissed, but Hera knows better. She knows that every betrayal is a crack in the foundation of his rule, and she intends to exploit those cracks one by one, until Zeus's empire crumbles beneath the weight of his own mistakes. You begin to see the pieces fall into place. Hera's plan is not just about revenge, it is about control. She wants to make sure that no god can ever forget the price of crossing her. She wants to ensure that Olympus will never again be a place where Zeus's power reigns unchecked. Hera's rise to power will not be through brute force. It will be through manipulation, through subtlety, and through the careful dismantling of Zeus's empire. And as the gods of Olympus continue to play their games, unaware of the storm brewing within their own ranks, Hera waits. She is patient, watching, knowing that in time everything will fall into her hands. And when it does, she will be the one who controls Olympus, not Zeus, not anyone else. Hera will be the true queen of the gods. The air on Olympus grows heavy, as if the very heavens themselves sense the brewing storm. The gods, once proud and unchallenged, now feel a creeping unease, an awareness that something is shifting beneath them. Their unity, once a symbol of divine power, now feels fragile, like a cobweb teetering on the edge of destruction. They do not yet realize that this shift is the work of a single hand, the hand of Hera. And amid all of this, the whispers of Io's suffering continue to echo, an omen of what happens when Hera's vengeance is unleashed upon those who cross her. You can feel the weight of Io's curse, the endless pain that stretches across the mortal and divine realms. You feel the sting of her isolation, the pain of being trapped in a form that is not hers, of being hunted by an unrelenting force that reminds her at every turn of Hera's wrath. The gods may look upon her with pity, but Hera's satisfaction is clear. This is no mere punishment, it is a lesson, one that is written into the very fabric of Olympus. As you follow Io's endless wandering, you begin to understand the depth of Hera's cruelty. The cow that she has become is not just a punishment, it is a symbol of Hera's ability to reshape the very essence of those who dare to challenge her. Hera's wrath does not simply change the bodies of mortals, it changes their very lives, their very destinies. Io is cursed to wander the earth for eternity, her beauty and innocence lost to a divine punishment that no mortal could ever have anticipated. The gods, of course, are not immune to Hera's wrath. In the aftermath of Io's transformation, you sense a shift in the divine order. Hera's vengeance has made its mark, and now Zeus feels the weight of her anger on his shoulders. He may have been the mighty ruler of Olympus, the king of the gods, but he now knows that his power is not absolute. Hera's quiet, calculated strikes have begun to chip away at the foundation of his reign, and even Zeus cannot deny the growing tension. But Hera is not finished. She knows that to break Zeus, she must do more than just punish his lovers. She must go deeper into the very heart of his pride, and force him to confront the consequences of his actions. The gods may have thought her punishments were enough, but Hera has a plan, far more intricate than they could ever imagine. She is not merely seeking vengeance. She is seeking control, seeking to reshape Olympus into a kingdom where her will is absolute. The next chapter of Hera's plan begins to take shape as she sets her sights on another victim, Semele, the mortal woman who has fallen under Zeus's spell, is not yet aware of the danger that lurks around her. Hera, ever patient, ever calculating, knows that Semele's fate is already sealed. She appears before the mortal woman, cloaked in a guise of false friendship. Disguised as an older, trusted figure, Hera plants the seed of doubt in Semele's heart, suggesting that if she truly loves Zeus, she must ask him to reveal himself in all his divine glory. This, Hera knows, will be the undoing of both Semele and Zeus. Semele, innocent and unaware of Hera's malevolent intentions, believes Hera's words to be the advice of a caring confidant. She follows the path that Hera has set for her, asking Zeus to reveal himself in all his divine power. And with that request, Semele's fate is sealed. The moment Zeus unveils his true form, the very power of his being destroys the mortal woman in an instant. Zeus, Hera, however, watches from the shadows with a quiet satisfaction. This is not just vengeance. It is a message. Zeus, for all his power, has been made to face the true cost of his actions. His lover lies dead, consumed by the very power he so freely wields. And Hera, in her quiet fury, has sent a clear message to the king of the gods. There are consequences for defying her, for taking what is not yours without understanding the cost. But Hera's revenge is far from over. As the gods of Olympus grapple with the repercussions of Zeus's actions, they fail to see the true depth of Hera's plan. She is not simply punishing those who have wronged her. She is playing a long game, a game of patience and precision. Every move she makes is carefully calculated. Every word she speaks a thread in the intricate web she has spun around. Zeus and his allies. You begin to understand the enormity of Hera's ambition. She is not content with merely punishing the gods for their transgressions. She is reshaping Olympus piece by piece. The gods, once so secure in their power, now find themselves questioning the very foundation of their existence. They are beginning to realize that Hera's power lies not in brute force, but in her ability to control the minds and hearts of those around her. Zeus, for all his might, is powerless against Hera's psychological warfare. He cannot see the threads that bind him, cannot comprehend the depths of the manipulation that has brought him to the edge of his own downfall. And as Hera's vengeance unfolds, she begins to see the cracks in Zeus's rule widen, just as she knew they would. His infidelities, his arrogance, his belief in his own invincibility. These are the weaknesses she has exploited to bring him to this point. You can almost hear Hera's quiet triumph as the gods of Olympus begin to realize the full extent of her power. They have underestimated her, dismissed her as a mere queen, a dutiful wife. But Hera is so much more than that. She is the mastermind behind the downfall of Olympus, the architect of its destruction. And as the gods watch the pieces of their world crumble, they realize, too late, that they have underestimated the woman who will soon rule them all. The gods, caught in the web of Hera's growing influence, can no longer ignore the shifting tides of Olympus. Their once unshakable foundation is now built on cracks, each one widening with every subtle move Hera makes. Hera's vengeance, once simmering beneath the surface, is now beginning to burn with a quiet intensity that threatens to consume everything in its path. It's not just revenge anymore, it's a slow and deliberate dismantling of Zeus's reign. And as you observe the shifting power dynamics, you realize Hera has played her hand expertly. The next strike is even more calculated, more devious than those that came before. It is not a simple punishment, but a psychological blow aimed directly at Zeus's very heart. Hera turns her attention to one of his most beloved mortals, the beautiful and naive Semele. The mortal woman, despite being the target of Zeus's affection, is yet unaware of the power struggles swirling around her. She is completely entranced by the god who has captured her heart. But Hera knows better. Hera knows that Semele, like the others before her, will serve as a pawn in her much larger game. You watch as Hera's patience unfolds. Disguised as an old woman, she takes on the role of Semele's confidant. She speaks with honeyed words, careful not to show her true intentions. Hera is a master of manipulation, and with every passing moment, She feeds Semele's growing desire to experience Zeus's divine power. Hera whispers, ever so gently, that if Semele truly loved Zeus, she must ask him to reveal himself in his true, godly form. The seed is planted. Semele, innocent and blinded by her love for Zeus, takes the bait. She implores Zeus to reveal himself as he truly is, to show her the might that she believes will prove the depth of his love. What Semele does not realize, of course, is that this request will be her undoing. Hera, ever watchful, knows what will come next. When Zeus, in his arrogance and pride, agrees to Semele's request, the consequences are devastating. The moment Zeus unveils his true form, blinding in its divine radiance, Semele is consumed by the very power she so desperately sought. In an instant, her mortal body is reduced to ashes, unable to withstand the overwhelming force of the god she loved. You feel the quiet satisfaction of Hera as she watches from the shadows. This is not just another victim, it is a demonstration of her power. To Hera, Semele's death is more than just a personal victory. It is a message to Zeus and to all who have underestimated her. Hera's wrath is not something to be taken lightly. With each of Zeus's lovers that she destroys, she gains more control over Olympus. The gods may not understand the depths of her manipulation, but Hera is calculating. Every loss Zeus suffers brings her one step closer to her ultimate goal, taking control of the throne of Olympus. As Zeus watches the ashes of Semele drift away, you can feel his internal conflict. He loved her, he truly did. But love is a fragile thing, and Hera knows that Zeus's pride, his inability to see the consequences of his own actions, will always be his downfall. The king of gods is broken, but he does not yet know it. He remains unaware that the true architect of his undoing is not the mortal Semele or his countless other lovers, but the very queen of Olympus he so casually disregarded. Hera has proven, once again, that she is a force to be reckoned with, and yet, even as Zeus feels the sting of Semele's loss, he remains blind to Hera's deeper schemes. He believes that he is the ruler of Olympus, that his thunder and his will are the forces that shape the world. But Hera is taking control, piece by piece, not with brute strength, but with her subtle manipulations. She has not only punished Semele for daring to fall in love with Zeus, but she has used Semele's death to destabilize Zeus himself. The damage, though invisible to the gods, is deep. You feel the weight of Hera's cold gaze as she watches her plans unfold. This is not just about vengeance. This is about reshaping Olympus to her will. She is playing a long game, carefully and slowly eroding the power structures that have long supported Zeus's reign. Every affair, every betrayal, every death is just another piece in her puzzle. And as you watch her move through Olympus, with Zeus none the wiser, Hera's subtle manipulations have made their mark, and the foundation of Olympus is no longer stable. The gods begin to whisper amongst themselves, unsure of their allegiances. Hera has sowed the seeds of doubt, of distrust, and soon she will watch as the gods begin to turn on each other. In the chaos that will follow, she will seize control. You feel the tension building, the quiet satisfaction that pulses through Hera's every action. She has already proven that she can tear down the gods with her whispers and her plots. Now, she is ready to take the next step. Hera knows that Zeus will not be defeated easily. But Hera has a deeper understanding of the gods. She knows that it is not through force that she will win. It is through manipulation, through patience, and through the quiet destruction of those who stand in her way. The gods have no idea what is coming. They still believe that they are invincible, that their power cannot be challenged. But Hera in the shadows is pulling the strings, and soon she will reveal her true power, one that will topple Olympus and leave Zeus to face the consequences of his own actions. Hera is not just the queen of Olympus. She is its master, and no one will be able to escape her grasp. The seeds that Hera has so carefully sown are beginning to sprout in ways that even the gods cannot ignore. The air in Olympus is thick with tension. The once unshakable unity of the gods is now a fragile facade, teetering on the edge of collapse. Hera has played her hand so expertly that even Zeus, the king of the gods, is starting to feel the pressure of her subtle manipulations. The cracks in his reign are growing, and it is only a matter of time before they shatter completely. But Hera is not done. Her vengeance has already cost Zeus the loss of one lover, Semele, and yet it is not enough. Hera's cunning is insatiable. She has tasted the power that comes with watching Zeus suffer. But she knows that to truly break him, she must strike at his greatest pride, his children. You can almost feel the weight of Hera's calculations as she watches over Olympus, her mind working like clockwork, turning every betrayal into an opportunity to tighten her grip on the god's kingdom. The next target is none other than Hercules, Zeus's son by Alcmene, a mortal woman. Hercules, for all his strength and glory, is a thorn in Hera's sida, constant reminder of Zeus's infidelity and of Hera's powerlessness in controlling the man-child. And Hera cannot stand the sight of him. Her hatred for him runs deep, fueled not just by the fact that he is a product of Zeus's affair, but by the sheer audacity of his existence. Hercules is everything that Hera despises us living, breathing embodiment of Zeus's infidelities, and as long as he lives, Hera's vengeance will not be complete. Hera, ever the strategist, knows that brute force will not be enough to destroy Hercules. He is strong, perhaps stronger than any god, and he has the favor of Zeus. No. Hera's vengeance must be subtler, more insidious. She sets her plan into motion, starting with his infancy, with the knowledge that Zeus's pride will always make him blind to his own children's safety. Hera makes her move. One night, when the infant Hercules lies in his cradle, she sends 2 giant serpents to slay him in his sleep. She can feel her satisfaction as the serpents slither through the halls of the palace, their monstrous forms looming over the helpless child. But Hercules, even as a baby, proves to be more than Hera bargained for. The child, driven by an inner strength and fury, grabs the serpents in his tiny hands and crushes them, saving his own life in an act of defiance against Hera's machinations. You feel the burning rage in Hera as she watches from the shadows. She had expected Hercules to perish, to fulfill the prophecy that she had set in motion. But instead, the child has survived, and in doing so, he has only proven himself more formidable than ever. Hera's anger swells, but she does not give up. She will not allow a mere child, no matter how strong, to thwart her plans. If she cannot destroy him in his infancy, then she will take another approach, and so Hera embarks on a campaign to destroy Hercules' life, not with brute force, but with manipulation, with pain, and with the destruction of those he loves. She sets him on a path of impossible tasks, each one designed to break him, to chip away at his strength and spirit. 12 labors, each more daunting than the last, each one set up with the knowledge that even Hercules' immense power will not be enough to overcome Hera's carefully constructed traps. You feel the weight of Hera's control over these trials. She watches as Hercules, over and over again, battles monsters, confronts impossible odds, and struggles to survive the trials set before him. Each labor is a test, not just of Hercules' strength, but of his will to continue. Hera knows that if she can break his spirit, then she will have one. She does not care if Hercules completes the tasks. All that matters is that he suffers. But Hercules, true to his nature, does not break. Each task he faces, each impossible feat he completes, only strengthens his resolve. Hera watches in frustration as the mortal hero proves to be more resilient than she ever anticipated. Despite her best efforts, he continues to defy her, continuing to rise from every blow, continuing to stand tall, despite the weight of her cruelty. You can sense Hera's mounting fury as Hercules completes the final labor. The capture of Cerberus, the 3-headed dog guarding the gates of the underworld. This labor, the most difficult of them all, was meant to break him, to show him that no matter how strong he was, he would never be free of Hera's wrath. But Hercules, again, triumphs. He captures Cerberus and returns to Olympus, his task completed. And in doing so, he reaffirms his place as a hero of legend, a symbol of strength and resilience. It is here, at the culmination of Hercules' labors, that Hera's defeat becomes clear. Her vengeance, though long and calculated, has failed. Hercules has not only survived. In her pursuit of vengeance, Hera has underestimated the very thing she sought to destroy. Hercules' indomitable spirit. As you watch the final moments of Hera's machinations, you realize the cost of her obsession. Her desire for vengeance has consumed her. And yet, in her failure, she has only strengthened Hercules, cementing his place in the pantheon of heroes. Hera's wrath has, in the end, accomplished nothing but the destruction of her own peace of mind. You feel the lingering tension of this failure in the air. Hera, though she has accomplished much, has also lost. Her pursuit of control, her desire to punish has driven her to the brink of madness. And as you watch her retreat into the shadows, you can feel the shifting power on Olympus. Hera's reign, once certain, now seems fragile. The gods, watching her from a distance, begin to realize that their queen's ambition may have cost her everything. The gods of Olympus, once steadfast in their beliefs of their own invulnerability, begin to tremble in the wake of Hera's growing dissatisfaction. Her plans have been thwarted more than once, her vengeance unsuccessful against the one she most despises, Hercules. Yet Hera does not relent. She does not acknowledge defeat in the same way the gods do. For Hera, there is always another strategy, another avenue to pursue, another layer of her plan to unfold. She is, after all, the queen of Olympus, and no mere mortal or demigod will rob her of her sense of control. You sense the shift in the divine air. Zeus, though still blinded by his own ego, feels the discontent growing within his wife. Hera's vengeance, despite all her failures, has set into motion a much larger and more dangerous game. The gods have witnessed her wrath up close first, with Semele, then with Hercules, and yet they still fail to comprehend the depth of her manipulation. What they fail to see is that Hera's true power is not in her ability to destroy. It is in her ability to make others destroy themselves. And her patience is as unyielding as her will. Hera, always a step ahead, begins to plant the seeds of discord once more. But this time, she turns her sights on something far grander, something more fitting for her ultimate goal. She begins to twist the events of the Trojan War to her advantage, playing a long game that will ultimately reshape the very fabric of Olympus. The gods, oblivious to her influence, become mere pawns in her strategic conquest. It begins innocently enough, with Hera's involvement in the wedding of Peleus and Thetis. You feel the weight of her scheming even in the moments leading up to the event. The gods are invited, the celebration grand, but Hera is already planning. She knows that something as seemingly trivial as a wedding can be the catalyst for the events to come. After all, she has already spent millennia perfecting the art of turning the smallest incident into a full-blown divine disaster. At this wedding, the golden apple is thrown into the mix, an innocent gift that will spark a war that will cost countless lives. The apple, inscribed with the words "for the fairest," is thrown into the crowd of gods, and Hera's influence over the outcome of this act becomes evident. She is no fool. She knows that the gods will fight over it, each one believing they deserve the title of the fairest. And from this seemingly innocent gesture, Hera begins to sow the seeds of conflict that will last for years. As the gods squabble over the golden apple, you can feel Hera's satisfaction. She doesn't care who wins the title of the fairest. She simply wants to see the gods brought to their knees by their own vanity and jealousy. In her mind, their conflict will ultimately serve her greater purpose. The Trojan War, a war that has been brewing for years, is just the beginning. Hera's involvement in the war is more than just a matter of spite. It is the culmination of a long brewing desire to see Zeus's authority stripped from him. She knows that if she can incite the gods to turn on each other, she will be able to pick up the pieces of their crumbling power. Each moment of discord between the gods is a step closer to her own triumph. Her schemes become more intricate as the war rages on. You feel the tension growing with each battle, each shift in allegiance, and each god who chooses sides. Hera's role in the war becomes less obvious to the gods themselves. They do not know that she is the puppet master behind the scenes, pulling the strings that guide their decisions, manipulating their every move. It is her quiet whispers that turn the tide of battles, her unseen hand that shifts the fates of heroes she becomes once again. The queen behind the throne, the true power behind Olympus's turbulent rule, the Trojan War, which is meant to be the gods' arena of glory, becomes her stage for revenge. The gods fight, mortals die, and the world burns all according to Hera's design. She is not interested in the outcome of the war. What matters is the chaos, the destruction, and the shift in power that will follow in its wake. Through it all, she watches, calm and assured. Hera's vengeance against Zeus is no longer a simple act of retaliation, is a full-scale war, one that spans realms and affects the very future of Olympus itself. Zeus, ever confident in his superiority, fails to see how his wife is orchestrating the downfall of the divine order. He still believes himself to be the master of Olympus, the one who holds the thunderbolt and commands the heavens. But in truth, he is nothing more than a pawn in Hera's game, a pawn she has been moving for centuries, shaping and molding him into the perfect instrument for her ultimate rise to power. You feel Hera's triumph as the war continues to escalate. The gods fight each other, their pride and anger driving them to acts of senseless destruction. Each battle brings them closer to the brink of collapse, and Hera watches with satisfaction. She knows that, in the end, it is she who will emerge victorious. Zeus, weakened by his infidelities and his inability to control his own family, will fall, and Hera will be the one to pick up the pieces, to build a new Olympus where her rule is absolute. You begin to understand the depth of Hera's ambition. This war, this strife, is all part of her grand plan. She has been patient, so patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. She has watched as the gods tore each other apart, as Zeus made mistake after mistake, and now she is ready to claim her prize. Olympus will be hers, and no one, not even Zeus, will be able to stop her. As the war continues to ravage the mortal realm and the gods tear themselves apart, Hera's quiet victory becomes inevitable. The gods, who once saw her as nothing more than a jealous wife, will soon realize the true extent of her power. And when the dust settles, it will be Hera who stands at the top, the true queen of Olympus. The Trojan War rages on, a battlefield of gods and mortals alike. And amid the chaos, Hera's influence grows ever stronger. The gods, divided and distracted by their petty grievances, have become pawns in her game. While the mortals perish in battle, the gods fall into a deeper web of deception, and you can feel the power shift in the air. The weight of the very earth beneath Olympus seems to tremble with it. Hera, patient and precise, watches the destruction unfold before her. The gods squabble and rage, their anger so palpable you can almost taste it in the air. Each fight, each conflict, is a stepping stone in Hera's grand design. She has long understood the one undeniable truth that governs Olympus' power does not lie in physical strength or grand displays of might. It lies in the manipulation of the mind, in the subtle weaving of fate, and Hera, the master of these arts, has long been preparing for her final move. As the gods align themselves on opposite sides, Hera's influence subtly guides them. She knows how to make them distrust one another, how to incite hatred with a single word, how to twist the noblest of intentions into acts of vengeance. She watches, like a spider, as the gods entangle themselves in the web she has spun. It's beautiful, really, the way she's made them dance to her tune. And yet, her most ingenious manipulation is still yet to come. Amid the swirling storm of war, Hera begins to shift her attention towards the Greeks, the side that holds the most promise for her plans. She has seen the potential in the warriors, the leaders, especially one in particular, Achilles, the son of the mortal Peleus and the sea goddess Thetis. Achilles is a hero, but he is also a symbol of Zeus's will, a mortal born from divine blood, blessed with unmatched strength. To Hera, Achilles represents everything that Zeus values: pride, power, and the bloodline that he so desperately clings to. And so Hera knows that he must fall. But Hera does not strike at Achilles directly. No, she has learned that the greatest victories are won not through open confrontation, but through subtle shifts in the hearts and minds of those involved. She knows that if she can break Achilles' spirit, if she can make him question his loyalty and the source of his power, she will have won a victory that will shatter Zeus's carefully constructed image of invincibility. Hera's weapon is, once again, manipulation. She sets her sights on the rift between Achilles and Agamemnon, the leader of the Greek forces. You feel the seeds of discord being planted, one whispered word at a time. Hera knows that the pride of the Greek leaders is their greatest weakness, and she fans the flames of that pride with her quiet whispers. Turning the once heroic Achilles into a pawn of her will, you can see it clearly now. The scene is set. Achilles, prideful and consumed by the desire for glory, is already on the edge of conflict with Agamemnon over the captured woman, Briseis. In the tension between them, Hera sees the opening she has been waiting for. She feeds Agamemnon's ego, inflating his sense of superiority over Achilles, and in doing so, she pushes Achilles further into the depths of rage and bitterness. Achilles, so blinded by his pride, refuses to fight in the war when Agamemnon strips him of his prize. In this moment, you can feel Hera's power course through Olympus. With one simple, subtle maneuver, she has shifted the course of the war. Achilles, the greatest warrior the Greeks have, sits idle, unable to act. The tide of the war begins to turn, and Hera watches with a quiet, almost smug satisfaction. She has broken the greatest weapon of the Greek army, and with it, she has struck at Zeus's pride. She knows that Achilles' absence will not just weaken the Greeks, it will fracture their will, and they will lose the war without him. And yet, Hera does not stop there. She turns her gaze to the war's ultimate prize, Troy itself. She knows that if she can pull the strings of the gods' involvement, she will ensure that the city will fall, but at what cost? Hera is not content with simply watching the destruction of Troy. She wants it to be a symbol of her power, a testament to her manipulation and control over the very fates of gods and men alike. You feel Hera's influence as the gods begin to make their moves. Poseidon, Apollo, Artemis, and even Ares, all gods who once stood as pillars of strength, are now swayed by Hera's subtle whispers. She manipulates their allegiances, knowing that the destruction of Troy is not just about the fall of a city, is about the fall of Zeus's reign, about proving to the gods that Hera, and not Zeus, is the true force to be reckoned with. The walls of Troy begin to crumble, not just under the weight of mortal armies, but under the weight of divine influence. Hera has once again used her mastery of manipulation to guide the gods, turning them into instruments of her revenge. She watches as they fall into the trap she has set, each god thinking they are acting of their own volition, when in reality, they are playing a part in Hera's grand performance. As you watch the fall of Troy unfold, you begin to see the full extent of Hera's genius. Her power does not lie in her direct actions, but in her ability to turn every god, every mortal, every battle, into a tool for her ultimate control. She has set the stage for the collapse of the gods' world, and the Trojan War is just the beginning. Through her manipulation of fate, she will reshape Olympus in her own image. The fall of Troy is not just a victory for the Greeks, it is a victory for Hera, the gods, who have always seen her as a mere wife and queen, now understand the depth of her power. Hera has outplayed them all. Zeus, in his arrogance, has allowed her to grow in power, and now he will watch as she takes the throne. The gods will fall in line, just as Hera has planned, and when they do, she will be the one to rule them all. The fall of Troy reverberates across Olympus, shaking the foundations of divine rule. Hera's quiet triumph, long simmering beneath the surface of the war, now rises to the forefront. The gods, once sure of their invincibility, now look to one another with uncertainty. Hera's hand, invisible to most, has orchestrated the entire tragedy, and now, as the ashes of Troy settle, she stands at the precipice of her greatest victory. But she is not done yet. No, Hera's ambition stretches further. To the very heart of Olympus itself, you can feel the weight of her victory in the air, heavy and satisfying. The fall of Troy was not merely a battle in a war, it was the catalyst for a far grander scheme, one that has been in motion for centuries. Hera has carefully laid the groundwork for this moment, using her mastery of manipulation to break the gods, to destabilize Zeus's empire, and to plant the seeds of discord. And now, with Troy's destruction, the world has irrevocably shifted. Hera's influence extends beyond the mortal realm, and the gods know it. Zeus, the once mighty king of Olympus, stands in the ruins of his own making. He has witnessed the downfall of Troy, a city he himself swore to protect. And while the war has ended, the consequences of his neglect in Hera's schemes have only just begun to unfold. He is not the king he once believed himself to be. Hera, through her quiet, insidious manipulation, has exposed the cracks in his reign. As Zeus grapples with the aftermath of the war, Hera moves with quiet determination. She has watched her enemies fall, one by one, and now it is time to solidify her control. The gods, still reeling from the effects of the Trojan War, are ripe for manipulation. Hera understands that the key to her final ascent is not just the physical destruction of her rivals, it is their psychological collapse. She will make them believe that their fall is not her doing, that their weakness was inevitable. With a subtle smile, Hera begins to work her next move. She has already laid the groundwork with the gods, sowing seeds of doubt and distrust among them. But now she must focus her attention on the final piece of her puzzle, Zeus himself. She knows that to truly claim Olympus as her own, she must strip Zeus of his power, piece by piece. His pride, his arrogance, his belief that he is invincible, all of these things will be his undoing. Hera has watched him for centuries, and she knows his every weakness, and now she is ready to exploit them. You can almost feel the tension between them as Hera and Zeus face each other once more. Zeus, still unaware of the depths of his wife's machinations, stands tall, his power still seemingly unchallenged. But Hera knows that the throne of Olympus has always been hers for the taking. She has endured centuries of humiliation, of betrayal, of being dismissed as a mere wife. But now, she is ready to take what is rightfully hers. The moment of reckoning has arrived, and it is not a violent confrontation. No, Hera's victory will be far more satisfying than that. She does not need to strike Zeus down with a thunderbolt, or wage a battle for the throne. Instead, she begins to slowly dismantle his power, using his own flaws against him. First, she whispers in the ears of the gods, feeding their doubts and fears. She reminds them of Zeus's countless infidelities, his arrogance, his lack of concern for the future of Olympus. Slowly, the gods begin to turn against him. They begin to question his authority, his leadership. Hera's quiet influence, her subtle nudges, have already shifted the balance of power. The gods, once loyal to Zeus, now find themselves questioning whether he is fit to rule. You can see the cracks in Zeus's reign widen as the gods turn their gaze upon him. Hera watches, a quiet smile curling at the corners of her lips. She is not just watching Zeus's fall, she is orchestrating it. With every whisper, every calculated move, she chips away at his power, at his confidence, until he is nothing more than a shadow of the god he once was. The gods, who once bowed before Zeus, now turn their eyes toward Hera, the true queen of Olympus. As you observe the unfolding drama, you realize the true scale of Hera's ambition. She has not simply sought revenge, she has sought control. The absolute domination of Olympus. The war, the betrayals, the manipulation of the gods, all of it has led to this moment. Hera will not be a passive queen, standing by her husband's side. She will rule Olympus. And no one, least of all Zeus, will stand in her way. And as the gods slowly begin to acknowledge Hera's power, you feel the weight of her victory settle into place. Zeus, once the supreme ruler of Olympus, now stands alone. The gods are no longer his loyal subjects. They are Hera's followers, waiting for her to claim the throne as her own. Hera's plan has been executed to perfection. She has taken what was once Zeus's, not through force or violence, but through patience, manipulation, and subtlety. Her reign is inevitable. The gods, humbled and defeated, begin to bow before Hera. They realize, too late, that she has been the true power behind Olympus all along. Zeus's reign, though once unchallenged, is now at its end. Hera has won, and Olympus is hers to command. As you stand in the ruins of Olympus, watching Hera rise to claim the throne, you realize that her victory is not just over Zeus, it is over the entire world. She has shattered the illusions of the gods, exposing their weaknesses and taking control of their destiny. And now, as the gods fall into line, you can feel the finality of Hera's triumph. Olympus will never be the same, and Hera will rule it all. Hera's ascension is not a simple moment of glory. It is the culmination of a grand, intricately woven scheme that spans centuries. The gods, once the uncontested rulers of Olympus, now bow before her. Zeus, humbled and broken, is nothing more than a shadow of the powerful figure he once was. Hera has not only dismantled his empire, she has reshaped Olympus into something entirely different, a kingdom where her will reigns supreme. Unchallenged. As the gods kneel before her, you can feel the weight of Hera's triumph. It is not a victory born of brute force or open warfare, but of subtlety, patience, and manipulation. Hera's reign has been forged through whispers, secrets, and psychological warfare, and now the gods must face the consequences of their underestimation of her power. Hera, once relegated to the role of a supportive wife, now stands at the head of Olympus. She is the queen, the ruler, the one who controls the very fate of the gods. You feel the tension in the air as the gods, who once followed Zeus without question, now look to Hera for guidance. She has not just claimed her rightful place as queen, she has asserted control over the very essence of divine power. Each god, once sure of their own position, now realizes that Hera has outplayed them all. They have no choice but to bend the knee to her. Hera does not need to raise her hand or issue commands. Her presence alone is enough to command respect. Zeus, the king of the gods, stands by her side, but you can feel the bitter irony in the air. He is no longer the supreme ruler of Olympus. Hera's victory is not just about dethroning him, it is about proving that she, not Zeus, is the true force behind Olympus's power. Her quiet manipulation, her ability to exploit every weakness, has ensured that she will never again be relegated to the shadows. The gods, who once revered Zeus as the undisputed ruler, now understand that Hera has always been the one who truly controlled Olympus. She is the one who steered the gods toward their own destruction, and now she is the one who will reshape Olympus in her own image. You can sense the shift in the divine order, the subtle shift of power that only Hera can command. But Hera's rule is not a reign of fear or tyranny, it is one of calculated precision. A reign where every move is deliberate and every action serves a greater purpose. She understands that power is not just about control. It is about influence, about shaping the very foundation of the divine realm. And now, as the gods submit to her will, Hera is free to craft the world she has always envisioned. You watch as Hera stands tall, the true queen of Olympus, the ruler of the gods. Her eyes are filled with the quiet satisfaction of someone who has achieved everything they set out to do. There is no celebration, no fanfare, just a quiet, unyielding presence that commands respect. She has not only defeated Zeus, she has transcended him. She is now the embodiment of Olympus itself. But Hera is not content to rest on her laurels. She understands that the true test of her reign is not in her victory, but in how she governs. The gods, once divided by their petty grievances, now look to her for leadership. Hera knows that she must guide them, shape them into the divine order that she envisions. And she is not a ruler who will tolerate weakness or rebellion. The gods have learned the hard way that Hera does not tolerate disobedience. Hera's rule is one of balance, of calculated control. She does not seek to destroy those who challenge her. She seeks to manipulate them, to bend them to her will without them even realizing it. She is not a tyrant, but a queen who understands the true nature of power. She knows that the gods will always seek to test her, to challenge her reign. But Hera is not afraid. She has already proven that she is the true force behind Olympus's power, and no one, not even Zeus, will take that from her. You sense the growing reverence from the gods as they submit to Hera's rule. They may have once seen her as a mere figurehead, a wife to Zeus, but now they understand that Hera is the one who controls Olympus. The war, the betrayals, the manipulation, all of it has led to this moment. Hera has won, not through brute force, but through strategy, patience, and intelligence. And now, as she stands at the top of Olympus, the gods know that Hera will not be moved. Zeus, though still a god of immense power, understands his place now. He has been defeated, but more importantly, he has been overshadowed by the very woman he once sought to control. Hera's power is not born of her strength alone, is born of her understanding of the gods, of the divine realm, and of the intricate webs she has woven around each one of them. As Hera takes her seat on the throne, you can almost hear the quiet hum of power in the air. The gods, once divided and full of pride, are now united under her rule. She is the queen, the ruler, and the true force behind Olympus. Her reign will be one of precision, of careful control, and of absolute power. No one will challenge her, no one will even think to. And as the gods fall into line, you realize that Hera's victory is complete. She has not just claimed the throne of Olympus, she has redefined it. Zeus may have been the king, but it is Hera who will shape the future of Olympus. The gods will learn to obey her, to respect her, and to follow her rule. Hera is the queen of Olympus, and she will reign for eternity. The reign of Hera is a quiet, steady force, one that shifts Olympus, not through violence, but through the subtle manipulation of the divine order. The gods, once free to act on their own impulses, now find themselves bound by the invisible threads she has woven through their very hearts and minds. They do not question her power. They no longer dare to. While the gods fall into line, while Olympus adjusts to its new reality, Hera's mind does not rest. Her victory over Zeus and the other gods has been satisfying, but it is not enough. Hera is not content with simply being the queen of Olympus. She wants to reshape the very essence of divine rule. She knows that true power lies not in domination, but in shaping the fates of the gods themselves, in controlling their very destinies. You feel Hera's unwavering focus, her mind always working, always planning. She begins to turn her attention to the mortals, those who have long been pawns in the gods' endless games. Hera's manipulation of the gods has taught her an important lesson, one that she is eager to apply in a new realm. Mortals, too, can be shaped, controlled, and used as instruments of her will. Her first target is a mortal hero, one whose beauty has captured the hearts of the gods, particularly the goddess Aphrodite. But Hera, ever watchful, knows that Paris is not simply a mortal of beauty. He is a pawn in the hands of the gods, And she, ever the strategist, understands the immense potential in his fate. Hera's first move is subtle. She approaches Paris, not as a goddess, but as a voice of reason. She does not demand his loyalty, nor does she threaten him. Instead, she plants the seeds of doubt in his mind, whispering that the decisions he makes now will shape the future of his kingdom and the fate of the gods. Hera appeals to Paris's pride, his desire for power, and the hope of shaping his destiny. His judgment, his decision on which goddess to choose as the fairest, will set in motion the events that will lead to the destruction of Troy. But Hera's influence over Paris goes deeper than just this singular moment. She wants to make him believe that his choices are his own, that his fate lies in his hands, when in truth, she is the one who is guiding him. He is torn between three goddesses: Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, one promising him power, wealth, and glory. Hera knows that, in the end, Paris will choose Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. As the fairest, it is the easiest choice. For him, the one that speaks most directly to his desires. But Hera also knows that this choice will unleash a torrent of destruction. Unfold, you realize that Hera has already won. Her influence over Paris has sealed the fate of Troy. The war is set in motion, and though she has not directly caused the conflict, she has carefully orchestrated every step. Paris, believing he is simply making a choice for his own benefit, has been guided by Hera's steady hand. The gods, unaware of Hera's quiet manipulations, too will be her triumph, but in the fact that she has taken control of a mortal's destiny, she has shaped the future of an entire civilization through nothing more than whispers and subtle nudges. Hera's influence is no longer confined to the gods. It stretches into the mortal realm, shaping the world with the same quiet precision that has always defined her. The Trojan War, a conflict that will echo through the ages, will serve as Hera's greatest triumph. It is not just the fall of Troy that matters to her. Every action taken by the gods, every decision made by the mortals, has been influenced by Hera. She has not just won the war, she has ensured that the gods' greatest mistake was her greatest victory. Zeus, for all his thunder and power, could not see it coming, and now he must watch as Hera's influence reshapes the world in her image. You begin to understand the true depth of Hera's power. It is not simply her ability to manipulate the gods and mortal alike. And as you stand in the ruins of Troy, watching the gods and mortals struggle in the wake of her schemes, the Trojan War is but the first chapter in her story, a story in which she is the author, and all others are mere characters in her grand design. As the flames of Troy burn and the gods continue their endless struggles, of it all, her power now unchallenged. The gods may believe they are free to act as they wish, but Hera knows that everything has been set in motion by her hand. Olympus may think it rules the world, but in truth, it is Hera who controls the very fates of gods and mortals alike. Her victory is not just over Zeus, it is over fate itself. As the echoes of the Trojan War's destruction ripple across the realms, Hera's power has solidified in ways even she may not have anticipated. The gods, once filled with their own sense of invincibility, now find themselves at the mercy of her unyielding influence. Her empire is now undeniable, not just by force, but by subtlety, by mind, and by the quiet terror she instills in every being who dares challenge her. But though Hera has triumphed over Zeus, though she has orchestrated the fall of Troy, there is something deeper that stirs in her heart, a restlessness. Her conquest has been thorough, but now, as the gods bow to her, she begins to question, what is the purpose of ruling a kingdom if the crown feels so heavy? She has toppled Zeus's reign, reshaped Olympus, and commanded the fates of mortals with just a whisper. Yet, the moment of absolute victory now feels like a quiet, echoing silence in her mind. In this newfound stillness, Hera faces her most challenging question. What comes next? That no longer presents a challenge, but now she wonders what to do with this overwhelming reign. The gods bow, but their worship no longer excites her. She holds Olympus, but it feels less like a kingdom and more like a prison one of her own making. As Hera contemplates this, she turns her gaze inward, considering what it means to be the most powerful being in the world. It is not the throne that defines her, nor the accolades of the gods. Hera is a goddess of vengeance, of control. But what happens when there is no one left to control? In the quiet of her contemplation, Hera feels something stir deep within her. Perhaps it is the very thing she has been pushing away for eons, her humanity, or the echo of it. She remembers the time when she was a goddess, full of dreams, before the burdens of betrayal, jealousy, and vengeance took over her every thought. She remembers faintly a time when her heart was lighter, when her ambition was pure, and when she longed for companionship and trust, not control and fear. For the first time, Hera begins to question the very foundation of her reign. What if her pursuit of power, of vengeance against Zeus, of manipulating the gods, what if she has trapped herself in a cycle of eternal vengeance, and in doing so robbed herself of her capacity for anything beyond power? She has made the gods bend to her will, but in doing so, she wonders, has she lost her own soul? You feel this shift within her, subtle yet profound. Hera has never been one to show weakness, to reveal vulnerability, but now in the solitude of her thoughts, the true depth of her internal struggle is becoming apparent. Her throne is made of ashes, her crown crafted from the lives and souls she has manipulated. She has crushed every foe beneath her heel, but the price of that victory is becoming apparent. Her gaze distant, she begins to understand that true power is not about domination, it is about connection. It is not enough to control the gods or the fates of mortals. Hera now understands that she has isolated herself, not just from the gods, but from everything that once made her who she is. Her pursuit of vengeance, her hunger for control, has led her to this moment, an all-powerful queen. It is not the doubt of a weakling, but the quiet self-awareness of a goddess who has seen the futility of her actions. Hera has sought to destroy her enemies, but in the end, she has destroyed herself. Her reign, once built on the foundation of vengeance and control, now feels hollow. She has achieved everything, and yet she feels nothing. The gods bow to her, but she finds no joy in their obedience. Her conquest has been thorough, but it has left her empty. Hera's heart, cold as it has been for centuries, begins to stir. Once more, she feels the weight of the lives she has crushed, the dreams she has stolen, and the friendships she has destroyed. She has manipulated the gods, made mortals her playthings, but now she wonders if it was worth it. She has taken everything, but she has nothing left to take. Hera's mind, once sharp with schemes and strategies, now drifts in contemplation. You begin to understand what Hera must now face, her own regret. For the first time, the goddess who once ruled with unrelenting force is beginning to acknowledge the cost of that power. It has not been a price paid in blood alone, but in the soul of the queen who holds it all. Hera, despite her formidable strength, is a creature of emotion, of longing, of desire for connection, and she realizes, too late, that the path she chose was one that led her away from those very things. And so, of her choices, she has destroyed everything in her quest for power, but now she wonders what it was all for. Is ruling Olympus truly worth it, if all it has brought her is loneliness? Is vengeance truly satisfying, if it leaves you with nothing but the ashes of your enemies and the emptiness of a throne that no longer excites you? You realize that Hera's struggle is not just against the gods or against Zeus, it is a struggle with herself. She must now decide what kind of queen she truly wants to be, a tyrant who holds Olympus through fear and manipulation, or a ruler who seeks something more, a ruler who understands the true meaning of power, not as dominance, but as balance. Hera has conquered Olympus, but the real question is whether she can conquer herself. The realization weighs heavily on Hera's heart. She has conquered Olympus. She has manipulated the gods and mortals alike. She has destroyed enemies and claimed victories that few could have imagined. But now, as she sits upon her throne, the weight of her accomplishments no longer feels like triumph. It feels like a Berdona crown made of sorrow and isolation. You can feel the deepening conflict within her. Hera has always been defined by her pursuit of vengeance, by the need to assert her dominance over those who have wronged her. But now, after all the battles fought and won, she begins to see the truth that had always eluded her power. When gained at the expense of everything that once mattered, is hollow. It is an empty throne, a lifeless reign. The gods, once her rivals, now look to her for guidance, for leadership. But Hera finds herself unable to offer them the connection she once sought. She sees them, each god who has submitted to her, each one who once stood at her side, and yet they feel distant like strangers in her own court. The victory, once sweet, has turned bitter. Hera realizes that she has exchanged her happiness, her humanity, for a kingdom made of fear and subjugation. And yet, in this moment of introspection, Hera does not falter. She is no coward, no weak ruler who will let regret and doubt dictate her actions. She has built her empire, and she will hold it. But now, she sees that her rule must evolve. She must find a way to rule, not with fear alone, but with something more, a deeper understanding of herself, of the gods, and of the balance between power and connection. Hera's first step in this transformation is to look back at the ruins of her past, at the moments that shaped her. Her mind drifts back to the early days of her marriage to Zeus, when their love was pure, when she believed that their union was a partnership of equals, not a battleground. She remembers the first time she felt betrayed, the first seed of resentment that grew into the vengeful goddess she became. Hera once saw herself as the victim of Zeus's endless infidelities, but now, with the weight of her own actions upon her, she begins to question whether she has become the very thing she despised. Has she, in her quest for power and vengeance, become a tyrant just like Zeus? Has she destroyed everything she once loved in her pursuit of dominance? The thought stings, but it is a necessary pain. Hera knows that in order to rebuild Olympus just as a kingdom, but as a place where she can truly rule with authority and respect, she must first rebuild herself. She must find a way to reconcile the goddess of vengeance with the goddess of wisdom, the queen of Olympus with the woman who once loved. You sense a shift in Hera's demeanor as she stands tall before the gods, her mind worry with new resolve. There is still work to be done. The gods may be hers to command, but they are not her enemies. They are her responsibility. She cannot rule them with fear alone. She must teach them the balance she has only just begun to understand herself. The balance between power and compassion, between control and empathy. Hera turns her gaze toward the gods who stand in the shadow of her reign. They are waiting for her orders, their loyalty unquestioned. And yet, Hera knows that true loyalty cannot be commanded, it must be earned. She understands now that the gods do not need to fear her to respect her. They need to see her as a ruler who leads with wisdom, not just with force. She must offer them a new vision of what Olympus can be, a place of unity, of purpose, and of balance. The gods will not be her pawns anymore. They will be her allies. And in time, perhaps, Hera can rebuild the fractured relationships she once had, not just with Zeus, but with herself. Her reign will not be one of solitary power. It will be one of partnership and mutual respect as she addresses the gods. You sense the change in her words, in her tone. Gone are the cold, calculated commands. In their place is something softer, but no less powerful, understanding. Hera speaks to them not as a queen commanding obedience, but as a leader guiding her people. She asks them for their trust, for their cooperation, and for their commitment to building a new Olympus, a place where all gods, regardless of their origin or their past mistakes, can thrive. You feel the gods' hesitation at first, the weight of centuries of tradition, still holding them back. But as Hera continues, with a newfound strength and compassion in her voice, they begin to listen. The silence in the court of Olympus is heavy, but it is not oppressive. It is a silence filled with possibility. Hera has opened the door to a new era, one that promises change, growth, and healing. As she finishes speaking, there is a moment of quiet contemplation. The gods do not immediately rise to their feet in praise or cheer. They simply look to her with new understanding. Hera has not only reshaped Olympus, she has reshaped herself. She has learned that true power is not about domination. It is about connection, about guiding those around you toward a better future. For the first time in her reign, Hera feels at peace with her power. She has taken the throne through strength, through manipulation, through vengeance. But now she will rule with wisdom and balance. She will guide Olympus, not with an iron fist, but with the quiet assurance of a ruler who understands that true strength lies not in control, but in the ability to inspire those around you to rise with you. As you watch Hera standing before the gods, you realize that her journey is far from over. She has only just begun to understand the true nature of her reign. The road ahead will not be easy. There will be challenges. There will be moments of doubt. But Hera is no longer the queen of vengeance and isolation. She is the queen of balance, of unity, and of growth. And with that, Hera's rule enters a new chapter. It is no longer a kingdom of fear. It is a kingdom of hope, a kingdom where the gods and mortals alike can rise together, under the steady hand of the queen, who has learned that the greatest power comes from within. The final chapter of Hera's story is not one of conquest, but of reconciliation. The gods, once divided by pride, jealousy, and fear, now stand together under Hera's steady guiding hand. The throne of Olympus, once a symbol of Zeus's power, now serves as the foundation of Hera's new order, a realm where power is shared, where loyalty is earned, and where the gods no longer rule by force, but by respect. Hera, standing at the apex of her reign, looks upon the gods and realizes something profound. Her true victory was not in the destruction of her enemies, nor in the dethroning of Zeus, but in the transformation of Olympus itself. She has done what few gods could ever have imagined. She has united the divine realm. No longer are the gods bound by fear or petty grudges. They are bound by a common purpose, guided by Hera's vision. You sense that Hera's rule has changed, not just Olympus, but her as well. The fierce vengeance that once defined her, every action has softened into a deep wisdom, a quiet strength that commands the gods' respect without the need for intimidation. She is no longer the goddess of vengeance, is the goddess of balance, of unity, and of the power that comes from understanding the true nature of her rule. But Hera's transformation does not stop with her reign. It extends to her relationship with the gods, particularly with Zeus. Though their marriage was once a battleground, filled with betrayal and bitterness, it is now a partnership born from mutual respect. Zeus, once blind to Hera's power, now sees her not just as his queen, but as his equal. He recognizes that Hera's strength lies not in her ability to control, but in her ability to inspire and guide, where they rule not as rivals but as co-rulers, bound by a shared understanding of what it means to lead the gods. Two have undergone a transformation. No longer do they fight among themselves. No longer do they vie for dominance. Instead, they work together, each god contributing their unique gifts to the greater whole. Hera's reign has united them, and in doing so, she has shown them what it means to truly be powerful, not in the destruction of others, but in the creation of something greater than oneself. As you observe Hera, standing at the head of Olympus, you realize that her journey has been a journey not just of power, but of self-discovery. She has learned that true power does not come from domination or revenge, comes from understanding oneself, from knowing one's strengths and weaknesses, and from using that knowledge to guide others. Hera, the goddess who once sought to control everything around her, has learned that the greatest power lies in the ability to inspire, to elevate, and to unite. Her reign is not just one of strength, but of wisdom. She rules with a steady hand, not because she seeks to control, but because she understands the delicate balance that keeps Olympus in harmony. She has learned that leadership is not about being the strongest, but about being the one who can bring others together for a common purpose. And in this, Hera has truly become the queen of Olympus, not by force, but by understanding. The gods, watching Hera as she stands before them, realize that her reign is not one of oppression, it is one of hope. Under her rule, Olympus has been transformed from a kingdom of fear to a kingdom of unity. Hera has shown them that the greatest strength lies not in the ability to dominate, but in the ability to guide, to teach, and to lead with wisdom. And in this, Hera has become not just the queen of Olympus, but its heart. As you stand with Hera, watching the gods bow before her, not out of fear, but out of respect, you understand the true magnitude of her transformation. She has not just claimed the throne of Olympus, she has earned it. She has earned it through her wisdom, her patience, and her ability to change not just the gods, but herself. Hera is no longer just the goddess of vengeance. She is the goddess of balance, the true ruler of Olympus. And as the gods rise to their feet, united under Hera's reign, you realize that this is the beginning of a new era, one where Olympus is not ruled by fear, but by understanding. Hera has proven that even in the darkest moments, there is always room for change, for growth, and for redemption. And in this, she has shown the gods and the world that true power comes not from control, but from the ability to inspire those around you to rise with you. Now, as Hera stands at the helm of Olympus, she does so not as a conqueror, but as a queen who has earned her place, who has earned the respect of the gods, and who has finally found the peace she once sought. The gods of Olympus, once fractured and divided, now stand together under her reign, not as subjects, but as equals. Hera has shown them what true leadership is, and in doing so, she has brought Olympus to a new dawn. As you step back and watch the gods gather in unity, you realize that Hera's journey has not been one of vengeance, but of evolution. She has evolved from a queen consumed by revenge to a ruler who understands the true nature of power, one that lies not in dominance, but in connection, wisdom, and unity. Hera has not only conquered Olympus, she has transformed it, and in doing so, she has transformed herself. The kingdom that once trembled under her rule now stands strong, united, and poised for a future that Hera has carefully crafted. And in this moment, a legacy that will endure for ages to come as Olympus moves forward, no longer divided, but bound together by the steady hand of the queen who has taught them the true meaning of power. Asterisk, as the gods stand together, united under Hera's reign, you feel the calm that has settled over Olympus. The once chaotic and fractured world of the gods now stands at peace. The battles, the betrayals, the strife, those are all distant echoes now, swallowed by the quiet strength of Hera's leadership. The air is no longer thick with tension. Instead, it hums with possibility, with hope. Hera, once driven by vengeance, now leads with wisdom and compassion. Her reign one of unity, not fear. You watch as the gods who once served their own desires and egos now work together for a common purpose. The gods no longer see themselves as rivals but as allies, each with a unique role to play in the grand tapestry of Olympus. Hera has not only transformed their perceptions of her, but also their perceptions of themselves. They are no longer just powerful beings, they are caretakers of Olympus, stewards of a new world where collaboration and understanding reign supreme. And as you observe this peaceful moment, reign, though hard won, is still in its infancy. The gods are united for now, but challenges lie ahead. It is not enough to claim power, it must be nurtured, maintained, and safeguarded. Hera knows this better than anyone. and she faces the future with calm determination. Her journey has taught her that true power is not the ability to control others, but the wisdom to guide them. Hera has learned, through every trial, every betrayal, and every victory, that leadership is a delicate balance of strength and compassion. And as she stands at the heart of Olympus, she is ready to lead them into a new age, one that she will shape not through fear, but through the quiet power of unity. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together.